shovelwood. You need to check out All Elite.
We are the Lucha Brothers, and you listen All Elite Podcast.
You know why?
Hey, this is Cole Cabana. Check out the All Elite Podcast. All Elite. All Elite.
This is Sammy Guevara, the best ever. And you, yes you, need to go check out All Elite Podcast.
Myself, the man with the huge effort arms, Brian Cage. You're watching the All Elite Podcast. Who better?
Welcome back, All Elite family, to another exciting edition of the All Elite Podcast, episode 146. AJ, we have been at this for a while, have we not?
We have, man, and it's been a wild ride.
It has been a wild ride. It's been fun. I'm very excited. We are coming off of a very fun Revolution show. If you want to hear our recap and our feelings, reviews on Revolution, you can check out our review. We posted that fresh off of the show on Sunday. But we are here to discuss so much news, so much in AEW. Mm-hmm. We're going to be discussing a little bit of changes we have coming for the show ourselves.
Yeah, news with us. Us news.
Yeah, some us news. But before we get into that, AJ, how you been?
I'm doing good. I had a
You're
couple
lying.
meetings.
You just said you were sick. You said you were not feeling good.
I am very dizzy right now. But, you know, aside
he's working
from that,
through. The show must go on. He told me he's going to put in the work no matter what. He's showing up. He's here.
Yes, sir. And I've had a couple meetings, one about an audio drama I'm working on, and the other about a movie I'm working on. So I'm getting excited and back into my projects, friends working on it with me. Good shit.
That's lit, dude. I'm very excited to hear that. I'm not excited to hear about meetings, though, because I just have a personal PTSD of meetings at this point this year. This semester has been very high-level meetings involved, which is cool. It's been a lot of internship stuff, a lot of stuff going on. I run the school website. I do a lot of different stuff. So, man who wears too many hats, probably. But that leads to way more meetings than I necessarily enjoy. But nonetheless, that's enough about us in terms of that. Let's talk about us in terms of what we're going to do and what we're going to change here on the All Elite Podcast. Here in the next couple of weeks, probably, we're going to be transitioning to becoming more of Too Sweet Elite. We will still be presented and produced by the AEP, as you can assume, I imagine, that's by the All Elite Podcast. And there's a couple of reasons we're doing this. The major reason, the biggest reason, if you've tuned into the All Elite Podcast, I'm sure you've searched it up and found that there is not only one All Elite Podcast. This has been an issue for a while, and it's not necessarily an issue where we have an issue with them. I think that this was both sides thinking of the same idea very early on in AEW's tenure. I think both sides probably were hoping that one side would eventually bow out. So we're almost doing that. We're going to just transition. We're going to shorten it, the AEP, kind of like FTR does, where you can assume that is what it is. We're going to be produced by the AEP. Too Sweet Elite is going to be a show that is predominantly about AEW, All Elite Wrestling, and then we will also do some other NXT, Indie, New Japan oriented shows. AJ really likes Impact, so he'll want to talk about Moose. That won't be, we'll make it very clear when we're going to do something outside of the realm of AEW. Yeah. And this is Too Sweet Elite will be AEW centric, but it is a change I've wanted to implement for some time now. I think that it's just been, and again, I think that it was an issue where they thought of the same type of idea, and I think that many people thought of this because early on there were many All Elite podcasts. We were the two who were stubborn. And the reason we were stubborn, it wasn't a sense of, like, I never felt like they stole our idea. I felt like they very much probably thought the same thing early on as we did. We had the Twitter handle, and that to me in this time of this day and age, that says to me that you were thinking of something very early. And they had started posting podcasts a little bit earlier than us because they wanted to get ahead on the speculation. We waited on some news, and we started doing podcasts shortly after they did. So it's a strange situation. It's something where I don't have an issue with them. I think they do a pretty good show. I think they do a good job. We also want to branch out from just being AEW related, so we will be produced under the AEP name. We're going to keep the same Twitter handle because I've built a lot of just time and effort into the gifts and stuff related to that. Maybe one day we'll change that, but we'll have to see. But that's the biggest change coming to the All Elite Podcast over the next couple of weeks. You will see stuff like the AEP episode number 147 or whatever, and Too Sweet Elite, and we'll probably we might reset the number with Too Sweet Elite. I don't know. That's a conversation AJ and I will have to have. I don't really love the idea because we are like almost at 150 episodes of the All Elite Podcast, so probably not. But we will have stuff coming on the outside produced by the AEP as well. So, and maybe bringing in some of our friends. We have a lot of friends who have interest in NXT, interest in AEW and New Japan, stuff like that, indie stuff. So you never know. Maybe you'll see Phil back on an AEP related show. All of that said, we also have some giveaways to do. I want to remind Brandon 39156690 that he won the Rio figure. He was part of the retweet competition that we did this past Sunday related to Revolution. I did message him on Twitter, so reach back out to us. We'll get you your Rio figure sent to you by the end of the week. And I also wanted to shout out Zevo1979, and I hope that's how you pronounce it. It's XE VO 1979. My man has been tweeting at us for the last couple of weeks, letting us know what he's thought about the episodes, and I appreciate that. I appreciate feedback from our listeners who are letting us know what they think of what's going on. That's always appreciated. So Zevo 1979, I'm gonna be reaching out to you tomorrow about getting you your Dustin Rhodes figure sent to you. We'll just need your address, and that's all it'll take. Very, very excited to do stuff like this. I have quite a few more figures lined up to be giving away on future episodes of the All Elite podcast. So if you've stuck with us, if you've been a part of what we have going on, then probably the first two Sweet Elite show, we will give away at least one or two figures. I know that we'll definitely be giving away one Pac figure because I did the same thing as last time, AJ, where I made an order from Walmart and was like, I hope they give me a sweet AEW figure. Turns out they gave me a Pac one that I already have. So we'll definitely be giving away one of those.
Cool.
But yeah, lots of cool stuff. Any thoughts, anything to say, AJ?
Dude, I'm excited. I'm excited for Two Sweet Elite. I'm excited that we're going to be branching out to do more wrestling promotions. And, we're going to talk about it. We're not sure if we're going to be covering like every NXT show. Maybe we'll cover takeovers. Maybe we'll cover big New Japan shows. But we're going to be able to do a lot more. We're going to be able to talk about GCW, New Japan, NXT, all the promotions we don't always get to talk about. And, of course, we're primarily, first and foremost, AEW. And I love AEW, and I'm always excited to watch it. But I also like to watch a lot of other stuff.
Yes, exactly. And that's one thing I want to say. We're going to branch out, but we will most likely be keeping the two AEW-centric shows and then adding additional content on about probably bigger shows from New Japan, takeovers, big GCW shows, something leading up to big events where we can discuss, get excited about it, and just give our thoughts on what we anticipate coming from those, and maybe a show directly after that reviewing it or our thoughts on it. Stuff like that. We have a lot of stuff we would like to do. This opens doors to do a lot more, especially if you're not just under the name The All Elite Podcast. And the AEP essentially is The All Elite Podcast, but that's what we're shortening it, brother. And that it's just the AEP. It stands for nothing, brother. But I do want to shout out the other All Elite podcasts. I think they do a good job. I think they have a good show. They had Brandon Cutler on early. They had a couple of different people on early, and they do a good job. They do a good job at bringing in listeners and other people within the community. So I do also want to shout out the other All Elite podcasts, and I want to say that there was never any tension on this end. It was always kind of awkward and weird, but it was something we just kind of tried to work through because it was just like a shitty circumstance. I felt like I was like, okay, we all thought of the same thing at the same time. So
yeah.
And so now this gives us a much bigger opportunity to open the doors, but I do just want to let people know we will be here every Tuesday and Thursday covering AEW the same way we have been. So if you stuck with us through this, we appreciate it, and we're going to keep coming for you. All of that said, we have AEW-related news to cover. Now, there has been a lot of chatter online still about the ending of Revolution, as you would expect. Tony Khan went on to explain that it was definitely a dud. It was a crappy situation. Jon Moxley, at the end of Revolution, cut a bit of a promo saying that Kenny Omega couldn't build an exploding ring worth of shit. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts now, a few days removed?
Honestly, every time I think about it, it feels like I get a knot in my stomach where I'm just like, it's almost like secondhand embarrassment, if that's the right term, because I just think about Eddie Kingston selling it. That's what gets me, because Moxley, if he was just in the ring and it did that, then yeah, you can cut the promo and say Kenny built a shitty bomb, but Eddie sold it. That's the big problem here. Eddie sold the dud. So what do you do on Dynamite? How do you go from here? And it's just a really tough situation, man. And I really hope that they can figure something out to make this work or just move on from it. I noticed on Being the Elite, which I kind of skimmed through, they didn't mention it as far as I saw anyways. So like not even a reference, not even a joke, nothing. And I don't know. I'm guessing that's because they're racking their brains trying to figure out what the hell to do.
Yeah, I definitely think that they are racking their brains trying to figure out what to do. There are some reports that came out saying that Kenny Omega was apparently furious with this situation. That makes a ton of sense. If I was Kenny Omega, I'd be furious. It also sucks because in storyline now, he's the one who's basically taking the full brunt of the burial in the fact that he's too apparently storyline stupid to put together an exploding ring, which isn't necessarily a thought process you get from someone like Kenny Omega. So, yeah, it's a tough spot. The Eddie Kingston thing especially, I agree with you there. That is real. Just it's tough as a fan of Kingston because it's just a weird, quirky situation. You don't blame him for not doing anything because how could he have? It would have been insane for him to have the foresight to think of doing something like that. And then who knows, like, if the bomb is, like, who knows? It's a malfunction situation from what I understand. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Because
a
you
tough
can't
break.
test something like that, man.
Well,
Like,
I heard a report that they did test it and that
no, I mean, like, you can test it, but like, you don't know if the next one's going to be a dud.
exactly, and that's the tough situation. I would have loved to have seen what it was supposed to be, and it's tough for Kenny because he's someone who likes to go on social media and poke fun sometimes at the competitor, and he is now a part of the biggest thing that you can poke fun at AEW about. You know, there's no way around this. You can't, and I guess they tried to have a way around this. They have removed several clips from Twitter off of social media of people kind of joking about it and stuff. I've also seen some stuff of it still up, so I don't think it was that serious. I think that it also could have just been clips also that might have had the finish involved. Like, you don't want the finish, so I don't necessarily know what was removed because I didn't see it. But I do understand wanting to try and take what you can off and then kind of just being like, well, shit, there's nothing we could do. This is going to look bad either way. What did you think of them removing the clips? Did you think anything of that?
No, because I mean, like, it would look bad if they're going out of their way to remove the clips. I really feel like it's probably more like what you said, where it's like the finish, or it's literally just like when we were showing clips of AEW and they were getting taken down, you know, just like the trackers that they have.
Yeah, that could be it for sure. It's not necessarily an intentional thing, but it's a tracker thing. But that is a weird explanation too. I think it is somewhat they were trying to remove it, and then I don't know. I get the idea of wanting to remove it, but it's not something they're gonna live down pretty much ever. Like it's gonna be until the next pay-per-view, which is a tough situation because that was a great pay-per-view. But I mean, probably the next big Dynamite they put together will make up for all of this. And this week's Dynamite, who knows? They could make up for it. They'll have Christian back, or Christian on TV making his official debut. And speaking of Christian, he did Renee Young's podcast this week. He said that he joined AEW because he wanted to showcase his talent and help the next generation. He also seemed to feel that he could still go, so he definitely made people who were skeptical like me look like a fool, and I appreciate that.
I have no doubt he can still go. I don't think he looked like a fool though, but I really feel like it's kind of an Edge situation where I know he was banged up, but I'm sure he did some crazy stuff to rehab, and he's probably ready to go and ready to work. And I love Christian, man. I'm a big fan of his work. I'm a fan of him in ring. I'm a fan of him on the mic. On the mic especially. I think the dude's hilarious. And I'm excited for him in AEW. I think it should go well. I just, like you said last week on Sunday on the pod, that I wish they just didn't announce or hype it up. I wish they had just done it. But aside from that, you know, we're in the shit now, and I'm loving Christian, so let's do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say at this point I am pretty much in. I'm excited about it. I was, like I had said on the last show, without the hype and the build up around it, it's a much more exciting get. Being able to listen to him sort of speak about wanting to sign with AEW and wanting to be the last leg of his career where he's really able to elevate some talent along the way, and you can tell that he recognized with this run he will get to like pick and choose who he works with and get to pick and choose what type of storylines he does and how he can actually genuinely elevate talent through doing stuff like that. You know what I mean? And that was something that I really took from his interview with Renee Young, and I think that we'll get with him. He will work with many different talent, have more of a background role as well, but also on television really do things to help elevate people. So I'm very excited for Christian's being brought into AEW. It was something initially I was a little bit not as excited about because I wanted it to be any type of outside of the realm possibility. I didn't want it to be something you could just see coming. And so I'm glad. I think that Christian is a great signing. I think that this could have been more exciting if you just did it as a surprise on Dynamite or on the pay-per-view. But that doesn't change the fact that Christian is a legitimate, like, top signing because of his talent that he brings, his history he brings. There's so much Christian brings to the table. So it's very cool to see that he wanted to join AEW because he wanted to help further along, bring talent further along. He mentioned MJF, which it makes sense. Everybody mentions MJF. He mentioned a couple other talent too, but that was one that stuck out to me that I'm excited to see them get an opportunity to work together. Hopefully maybe they can even do that quicker. That's one we'll see early.
Yeah.
And that brings me to the question, who's someone you would want to see Christian work with in AEW that you may have never seen him work with before?
Ricky Starks comes to mind because these guys, those are two really good promos, and they could do a lot of good work together. And MJF too, but I feel like Ricky Starks is more of that like snarky, charismatic kind of Christian style of a person who would like have good chemistry on the mic.
Yeah, I think Ricky Starks is a good one. He's definitely someone that I think about. I think, and you kind of took my answer there with Ricky Starks. Him, and he's someone that if it was before he was with Team Taz, I almost would have loved to see him get paired with Christian.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be someone who really gets to benefit as well. I think maybe not early on, but down the line, you will see someone paired with Christian kind of the same way we're seeing MJF with Jericho right now. And we'll be able to see some really cool stuff out of that as well, so.
Yeah, and you can even make it a big guy. Do it like Tomko.
You're right. Luchasaurus teaming up with Christian. You never know. Down the line. Christian's a great signing. I'm very excited about that. Something I'm not excited about, hearing a little bit more about injury-related news. I didn't notice this, actually, but Top Flight missed the tag team match this weekend. They weren't in the Battle Royal. And honestly, you would think I would notice because they're a team that probably would have done something crazy, high-flying. They would have stood out for sure if they were there. But there was so much going on in that Battle Royal that I did somewhat forget about them.
I did too.
But
Until you mentioned it.
Apparently Darius Martin twisted his knee. That's a tough break for them because they were announced for this match. That's why when I saw this, I was like, oh shit, they were supposed to be in. And even during the match, I think when they said that they were done with entrants, I had thought like there were a couple of people maybe that I thought were going to be in it and weren't. I definitely didn't pin it down until I saw this report. But this was interesting, and I hope he's able to make a quick recovery because Top Flight is a team that I'm very excited to see their future. So.
Yeah, same here. Because like, between them and Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, it really sucks that like both these teams are kind of on the shelf now.
Yeah, at least temporarily on the shelf while they try and figure this out. And it worked a little bit for Max Caster because he's not legitimately related to Anthony Bowens. Right here with Darius, it's a bit of a different situation where they'll probably be waiting for him to heal up. Hopefully with it just being a twisted knee, that he will be able to return relatively quick, and that might have been something that just happened at that end of the show brawl, or maybe I think they might have had a tag match set for Dark on Saturday that they probably filmed on Wednesday that might have led to this. So yeah, this is a tough break. It's a tough situation. I hope we see him come back. And just a little bit of an update on the people that are currently injured. There's Serena Deeb, Anna Jay, Anthony Bowens as other notable injuries, and Chris Statlander. I don't know if I said her name. So yeah, notable injuries right now, and it's interesting because we're at that point now where these are all new names still to me to an extent outside of Serena Deeb that are new within AEW. It sucks to see them injured. I'm excited to see them come back. Hopefully these injuries don't keep them on the shelf for too long. I think Statlander could be back sooner than later now at this point.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, it feels like she's been gone quite a while, doesn't it?
It does, but she had a pretty serious injury, didn't she? I want to say it was like a torn ACL, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I think that it'll be sooner rather than later, maybe still a couple of months, but I think we'll see Statlander return, which will be great for the women's division. I don't think Serena Deeb's injury is too serious. So there was just something like a scope or something like that. So they'll be. She said she'd be back sooner than later as well. So that's good. That's good. One other update to the women's division, Big Swole. She's not necessarily injured, but she's suffering from Crohn's disease. So that has been the reason for her noticeable absence. I believe Tony Khan was asked about this at the post-Revolution media scrum, and he explained it a little bit. And then Swole reiterated the information on Twitter a little bit later on, breaking down more of what she was dealing with and why it was necessarily setting her back. This is very interesting because she did just recently appear on Dark saying that demanding essentially a title match because she was the number one contender prior to the Eliminator. So I don't know if maybe she is still on the return back or maybe there was a setback here. Either way, hoping the best for Swole.
Yeah.
No thoughts on this? No thoughts on her being out?
Not really. Like Big Swole? No, not really. Because I'm gonna be honest. I kind of didn't notice she was gone.
I didn't necessarily notice she was gone, but she would have absolutely added to that women's tournament. I feel like she would have added, and that's to the same nature of some of the people you wanted to see in it who weren't injured, like Diamante and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I do think that she will add to the women's division when she returns. But I agree, she wasn't necessarily someone I noticed that she wasn't on, and that's more. Not even necessarily due to her, due to the lack of the featuring of women overall. Even on there's a couple of matches on Dark, but 2 out of 14 and 1 out of 7. It's a tough break with the amount of featuring we get for women and the amount of people they have on the roster, especially with that women's tournament. So I think that they're still in a good position. Once Swole is back, she will be featured more prominently. And she's good. She's pretty good. She's someone that I've enjoyed watching in AEW. She's had some setback situations as well. And I had a friend who suffered from Crohn's, and it's a tough thing. I had a coworker, and it was a tough situation where it did become a bit of an issue for him, and it's a shitty thing. So I can definitely understand and relate, like, in her field where you are actively performing and the toll that just performing has on your body, let alone a disease that then wears you down and some days just makes you more tired and stuff like that. And that's just my base, not total understanding of Crohn's, so I apologize if I don't even explain the situation right. But yeah, it's a tough situation for her. I hope that it's the brighter side that I'm suspecting, in that she is sort of on the way back. That's why they had her recently on Dark explain that she'd be challenging for the title. If not, hopefully it is a speedy recovery and doesn't take too long. Let's quickly run through Being the Elite and the highlights of this week's episode. I'm not going to run through every little thing, so we might miss a couple different parts, but these are the parts that stuck out to me. First thing I got to talk about is my boy Ryzen being featured with Vicky Guerrero and Nyla Rose. I did a piece on Ryzen today for WrestleJoy. If you get a chance, check it out. Go over to WrestleJoy.com and read up on Shining a Light on AEW Dark Ryzen Edition. Did a little bit of coverage on his process into getting into AEW and wrestling beforehand, and his features on Being the Elite have been a lot of fun. I think that Ryzen's really interesting, and I think this pairing with Vicky Guerrero and Nyla Rose in this weird sinister trio of like, they're just evil nuns is what it looks like, sisters. So this is fun. Matt Jackson,
that's a lot of fun, actually. I really enjoyed that.
Yes, I think that I think it's going to continue to get fun, because I've seen Ryzen was on Free the Deletion, which I noticed through some of my research of him, and he is just very entertaining in these type of settings. In the Being the Elite, Matt Hardy deletion type settings, he can be a lot of fun. So they can expand on this and really do something with him, and I like that. Matt Jackson at one point was showing his son how things were going to go at Dynamite with some action figures, and then we see that's actually how it went. I thought that just must be cool to be his son, to see that, like, and it's cool for us as fans to see him do it, and then it happen on TV. You're like, oh, that's neat. But literally just be his son, where he's being shown, like, yeah, when I go out, I'm going to do all this. And then his son probably watched him go out and do all this and was like, oh, shit. Like, I thought that was cool. That's cute.
That was a lot of fun.
Cute little son thing. The Bucks at one point discussing all the fans that they had at Revolution. Happy to be back at that. We got some clips from Revolution, and this was something I haven't seen on Being the Elite in a while, because I wasn't watching prior to the last pay-per-view, but I remember they did this early on, these highlight clips of the pay-per-view where it's just a different camera angle, very cool shots of the pay-per-view, so I appreciate them doing that. The Dark Order are back discussing that they lost the Battle Royal. They're talking shit to each other, and Hangman Page shows up. He talks about how he had made 6 figures off of this match. They're all talking about how great this is because they bought him a whole bunch of shit to celebrate because they were so confident. 10 told him he bought him some coke. It was hilarious. Great moment. But then Hangman's like, no, I told AEW to give away all of my money except for money to buy a lawnmower, which is also hilarious. So now he's just shit out of luck because they used his credit card to buy 16 barrels of whiskey and cocaine and all kinds of other stuff with money he doesn't have. So that's a rough break. And as he leaves, Stu Grayson is like, well, who's going to pay for Anna Jay's surgery now? And they start complaining about how Anna Jay is going to be on the shelf. And John Silver's like, no female could ever replace Anna Jay. And then we pan over to someone knocking at the door. Of course, it's Maki Ito. She says, surprise, motherfuckers. And just like that, Anna Jay is replaced. So if I'm Anna Jay, I'm a little bit upset about this. John Silver is especially going to get knocked out for this one, I feel like. So
to be fair, Anna Jay and Maki Ito are very different. You can't replace Anna Jay because she's so good at being deadpan and a fun straight man. Maki Ito is not a straight man.
Anna Jay definitely cracks a couple different times, but I agree with what you're saying, and that is a lot of fun. So I do agree. This is good stuff though from Being the Elite, and they close out the episode with Private Party. They're all worried about Matt Hardy, so they go to his hotel room, they knock on his door, he's sitting there eating grapes. They tell him that he is better than this, he doesn't need to eat those, and he slams the door in their face. So Matt Hardy is not only broke, but he is on his way to being broken once again, it feels
yes. Like. It does seem that way. I mean, he's eating the grapes, we all know what that means.
Yep, so
it means Fat Hardy's come.
So this was fun. This was a lot of fun. Another solid episode. Really not a lot of necessary content in this one. Some episodes of Being the Elite, you get a lot of content that helps with the stories, and it's never necessarily necessary, but it sometimes just really helps develop the story. There wasn't a whole lot of that in this, just some really good, entertaining stuff. So.
To be fair, the pay-per-view was Sunday, and this was done very quickly, I assume.
Yo, brother, I'm not telling you that they should have done more. I'm just saying.
No, I know.
For the fans, it was a filler episode.
Yeah.
Let's talk about my favorite segment every week is the Facebook Hot Takes, where I go on to AEW Facebook groups and grab a couple of posts from some different people and see what they had to say. And today, Jamal said, we should go easy on AEW about the ending to Revolution. Shit happens, you know? And this just made me laugh because I feel like we don't have to go easy on them. At a point, like, we do go easy on them a lot. This is a tough break, but they wouldn't go easy on NXT for this. They would be trolling like crazy, I feel like. So.
Absolutely they would. I mean, hell, they trolled WWE for bad finishes outside of NXT. You
remember the Being the Elite after the Red Hell in the Cell?
Yes.
So
they would be merciless about it. Like, absolutely. So no, we don't have to go that easy on them. I'll say I don't think it's anyone's fault. I think it's just a shitty situation, but
it's a super shitty situation. It sucks that this takes emphasis off of the match with Kenny and Mox. All of that. It super sucks. Like, if I was Kenny and Mox, I would be absolutely frustrated. Especially Kenny. Like, imagine he just did all these barbed wire spots, all of this shit that he's never used to necessarily doing. And it all is just an afterthought to people because of this explosion. So I totally get it. Yeah, and to an extent, I get why people want to give them a break or whatnot. But still, they would definitely be poking fun at people. And we're not even necessarily burying them on here. That's not even my point. I just, this read very funny to me. Like, shit happens, you know? Like, no, this wasn't just shit happens, bro.
Yeah, this was pretty bad.
Pretty bad. So, next hot take from Howard. Howard the Hot Take Machine says, outwork everyone. Does that mean Christian Cage should be getting a push? I mean, AJ, what do you think, brother?
No. I don't want to see Christian go for the title right away or any shit like that. No.
Yeah, I think Christian is kind of in a situation, like, he's priced into his spot on the card. He's going to be an upper main event type of guy. I won't be upset if he maybe gets a short TNT title run, because then he could elevate whoever defeats him. He could elevate the title a little bit by having a nice run with it. That type of stuff doesn't bother me. And I kind of think you already know where he's at, man. Tony Khan said he's like a Hall of Fame level signing. He is a main eventer, so how do you push him much further than that outside of a title run? And to that point, no. Like, I don't want to see him with the AEW World Title. I wouldn't mind seeing a match with him and Kenny. I don't really want to see that for the title either. Yeah, and that's something you could even just be like in like just do it relatively quick, you know what I mean? Just so that way there's no story. You don't need to build a story around it. You can get that cool Christian versus Kenny match in. You don't have to have, like, because I don't love stories where I don't feel like someone's going to win or have a chance. And as much as I like Christian, I wouldn't even believe that they would put the belt on him, even if they did a storyline with it. I would pretty much have no belief that he's going to win because it just doesn't make sense to what I see them doing.
And I'd believe it if he was in the company for a while, but certainly not right away.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. If they start booking him in that direction, because I have to see where they're going with him too. But I don't see a hot shot title run, that's for sure. But it was just a funny thing from Howard there. Brady said, if Paul White uses the Captain Insano gimmick, I think it would be a big hit. They filed the copyright for it, and I think it'll be funny and good. Corny? Yes. But it will be over with us fans. Thoughts? Will he show no mercy?
I agree. I actually do. I think, I don't mean all the time, but I mean, like, if they do some fun stuff on Being the Elite or wherever with Captain Insano, fuck yeah.
You're right. It's just in that theory, yes, 100%. I read this a lot more as like just all the time. But you're right.
No, that would be bad.
That's fun, and I like it. It will be fun, especially on Being the Elite. That would be a fun way to do it. Or if it's just like something he cuts to randomly on Dark Elevation, which I'm stoked for Dark Elevation next week. I'm not gonna lie. The week after, I might not be as stoked when I find out it's just totally not for me. But because I've become a lot more interested in Dark and learning about some of these talent on the show and getting more of a backstory on them, it's become very cool to me. So, last one from Joseph, not Big Joseph, but Joseph. He says, Cage versus Cage in a steel cage. Who would win? Cage match between Brian Cage and Christian Cage for the ultimate commodity, your name. Loser loses Cage. It's a lot. I nailed that.
That's a lot of Cage. Yeah, you did, actually. That was a tongue twister. I would be perfectly fine with that, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah. I do wonder if they do anything to reference the fact that now
they will. On Being the Elite, they will.
They definitely will. And Adam Page in his post-media scrum already talked about how Ethan Page is his cousin. So that was funny. They're definitely going to have to reference it in some way. But yeah, that is the Facebook hot takes for the week. They weren't even that spicy this week. They were just a little bit fun for me and some stuff I wanted to discuss.
Actually, on note of that, Ethan Page would be somebody I would love to see work with Christian.
That's a great point, and that would be what if they did that right away though? How would your feelings be? Because you don't really see that anywhere, but they are technically two established names where it wouldn't be that big of an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
say Christian comes out to cut his promo, and Ethan Page immediately interrupts him and is like, "You totally screwed up my night." On Sunday night, everyone was supposed to be excited about me. I went in this ladder match. I got my ass kicked, and all people cared about afterwards was you came out and did nothing. You did nothing while I was out here. So I think you could go with a really interesting story in that, something people would absolutely not expect because you don't see that in companies, but it would be pretty cool, I think, a pretty cool thing to see. I can't really think of many times I've seen two guys come into a company and start feuding with each other without really feuding with other people first. And
it makes sense because then neither of them have a record, so you can just build. Well, I mean, Ethan Page technically has a record, but 0-1 is not a huge record.
No, and you can build a lot off of this. I don't think it's where they're gonna go, but I would be really excited if it was.
That would be cool.
It would just kind of set just a different. It would just be something totally different to me. And it doesn't always have to be totally different stuff, but I think that would be very cool just to see two guys new to the company, but everybody knows who Christian is, so it's not even a problem. He's an established character within the company. People are fresh to who Ethan Page is, so it can easily elevate him and be a great start. I think that would be super cool. I think that's a great point. Now, to AEW Dark, as I had mentioned just a minute ago. We've got some sleeper picks for this week's AEW Dark. And honestly, if you guys are not tuned into Dark this week for the one match, at least for the one match, I have no idea what you're doing. You haven't seen the build for this. I have no idea what you're doing. Go to our Twitter right now and watch the video that is from Sammy Guevara's blog. I take no credit for this. Sammy Guevara put it together. But it is a fucking beautiful hype video of Fuego del Sol taking on QT Marshall. QT, we got the heel turn going into this, so he don't even have to play a good guy in this match. He can go in there and be a little shitty to Fuego del Sol, and commentary can hype that up as well. This is gonna be good.
It's a Tornado DDT versus the Diamond Cutter, man.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
But right on. My pick for this is Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss teaming up again to face Proud and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz.
Yeah, you chose a bunch of main roster guys for your
I mean,
dark
yeah,
pick.
but like I saw that and I was like, how am I not going to pick this?
This match told me everything I needed to know about why Joey and Sonny had been winning over the last couple weeks with Bear Country. And that's smart booking by them too, with these these 8-man tags, and having like a plan for both teams. And in probably in our minds, in your average mind, you would think, okay, Joey and Sonny are getting wins, so that way they can do stuff on main TV and stuff like that, maybe get a push. Bear Country getting wins so they can lose more on Dark and not hurt anything. No, total opposite. Joey and Sonny were getting wins from those 8-man tags, so that way when they're losing on Dark to Proud and Powerful, it feels like a lot more. They don't feel like jobbers, but that's kind of what they are in this match to me. Like, I know that there's a pretty much a 99% chance they don't win this.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume no. And if they do, then that would kick off a feud, in my opinion, because that's kind of a big win.
Which I'm not saying we won't see, because we've seen a couple of feuds kick off on Dark. Even over the last couple of weeks, they've done some stuff with Cesar Bonini and Peter Avalon and Dolph Ziggler's brother. So
Ryan Nemeth.
No, let's just call him Dolph Ziggler's brother.
Dolph Ziggler's brother is better, yeah.
So yeah, so they've done some stuff, some interesting storyline-esque stuff on Dark. And this Fuego del Sol QT Marshall, it has a whole storyline built off screen that I seriously encourage you guys to go check out, because it's a lot of fun. And QT is going to be fun. So.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to continue with the storylines on Dark, and I feel like they're going to even more so on Dark Elevation be doing that, because with the shows being split, you have a lot more room to do a lot more storyline stuff in that time.
I think so, and I hope you're right, because I think my perspective on Dark Elevation is that it's going to essentially be a visual, much cooler version of what I write on Shining a Light on AEW Dark. And that's not even to bury my content, because I think I do a really good job. But they have the resources and everybody there to interview them, to like get their backstory, to do like essentially what you see on American Idol when you get to know someone and then they get in the ring. I think that's probably what you'll see. We might not even see but 2 or 3 matches on AEW Elevation where we're getting to know them, they get in the ring, and that takes up almost half the show, is just getting to know them. So I don't know, and I almost wonder how that would work, especially how will fans feel if we spend more time on the introductory segments than we spend on the matches themselves.
Yeah, I think that would be, and because there are definitely going to be times where those matches are pretty short, because it's a lot of young people, and you're going to see a lot more introduction and exposition. But I don't think that's a bad thing, because it really gets you accustomed to these people, because you don't have to show an intro to these people every time they're on, just the first time.
That's true. And honestly, sometimes that happens in like UFC fights and stuff all the time, where you get it, and that's almost more exciting, especially if the match is good. So yeah, and I have high hopes for it. I think that's probably where they're going with Dark Elevation. I don't know if it'll be as promo heavy and stuff like that, as it is just like, okay, now you can learn about where they come from. And I think that'll be cool. Very cool.
I am really excited for it, though.
If they don't do that and you want to read about where they come from and how they got there, check out Shining a Light on AEW Dark on Wrestling.
Great articles.
Yes, sir.
Great articles.
That wraps up the Dark conversation for this week. Let's talk about Dynamite. Let's quickly run through Dynamite, give our predictions for the show. We have Christian Cage. I don't know if he's opening stuff up, but that's where we're opening stuff up. He will be speaking to fans in his Dynamite debut. So, and to me, that I was like, okay, I get it a little bit more why you had him come out, sign a contract, and say absolutely nothing. It sells the show on Dynamite a lot more than if he had come out and spoke on the pay-per-view.
Yeah. No, for sure. I still kind of wish he did, because it seems so weird to me, like just coming out, leaving. But whatever.
Arrive,
you're
show,
right.
shirt, leave.
Yeah, you're right. It is the smart thing to do, given you want to get people to watch Dynamite, and especially after the ending of the pay-per-view, you definitely want people to be interested in something, and like you don't want just people to tune in to see how they'll, try to make up for the problem. You want to see something cool, and Christian Cage will definitely deliver something cool.
Yes, absolutely. I'm excited to see Christian, what he has to say, and hopefully we get right into him being entrenched in a feud with somebody.
Yeah.
We will see Ethan Page make his AEW debut as well.
Maybe
I
at
imagine.
the same time.
Yeah, maybe at the same time. I imagine it'll potentially be in a matchup against probably a quick little squash or something like that. Tony Khan had mentioned that Ethan Page is going to help facilitate a need for heels in AEW, so I thought that was interesting. He makes sense as a heel character, but I didn't necessarily know if a new introduction would be coming in as a heel. But it works for me. And kind of after I had heard that and saw him, because I rewatched some of that ladder match, saw his mannerisms, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
He's mainly a heel. The North was a heel tag team. Like, when he's a face, it's usually Karate Man stuff. And even then, he's kind of a heel still. So, Ethan Page is a great heel, in my opinion.
That's cool. So yeah, that'll help, like I said, facilitate the need for a little bit more heels on Dynamite. He just mentioned with the Dark Order all essentially turning face at the same time, there was definitely a need for more on that side. Britt Baker will be teaming with Maki Ito and Nyla Rose to take on Hikaru Shida, Ryo Mizunami, and Thunder Rosa. Nyla Rose replacing Rebel. So tough break for Rebel. Still hurting, even though she's not. But apparently Tony Khan don't give a shit.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Rebel's not very good as a wrestler. I love her as a personality.
Her smash the freaking thing into whoever's face it was on the show, AJ. She's not hurt, brother.
Of course she's not hurt, but that's not the point. I don't want to see her wrestle.
Oh my God. Okay, and to that point, I 100% agree. I would much rather see Nyla Rose than Rebel, and I haven't seen a lot of Rebel, so I don't want to totally bury her. But I'll take your point. She's not the best one for this. Maki Ito is what we will all be simping for at this moment on Dynamite.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully we see more of Maki Ito down the line. I have to imagine this will be the last appearance for her, because I would imagine she and Ryo Mizunami will be returning to compete in Japan. But who knows? Maybe down the line, as things open back up, we could see a longer run. And who knows? Maybe it's a longer run right now, and we're just not looking at the bigger picture. It totally could be. That would be interesting. I still think, and this would be a cool little stopgap, as they also want to bring in Thea Trinidad. That would be something very interesting. Tony Khan also, during his post-show media scrums, had mentioned a plan to get a women's main event in the next couple of weeks. So I think that it could be Britt versus Hikaru or something like that in the next couple of weeks in the main. So.
And I think Maki Ito, now that I think about it, has ties right now in TJPW.
Oh yeah.
So we're probably gonna not say, like, she could be here for a little bit, but not a long time.
Definitely not. But it's still cool either way, at least on Dynamite. I mean, seriously, as a fan of Maki Ito, I thought we would maybe never see her stateside, at least until way further down the line. So to see her on the pay-per-view and now Dynamite is an absolute win for me as a fan.
Absolutely.
You'll see Matt Jackson taking on Ray Phoenix in what is sure to be a pretty solid match. Ray Phoenix and Nick Jackson had a great match last year. I do tend to be of the people who believe that Nick is a bit better in the singles matches than Matt. So I'm not saying this is going to be insane, but I'm also not saying it's going to be bad by any means. Matt Jackson is still great on his own accord.
Yeah, I was going to say, no discredit to Matt. I'm just a Nick guy. But and
Nick
I feel like Nick
really
is
good, dude.
He's really good, and
he would be really good as a singles too. Like,
yeah, he's definitely more of the risk taker rather than Matt. And kind of like in the Penta Phoenix thing, Phoenix is gonna do some crazy shit, and Penta is gonna break people's arms, and it's a different kind of vibe. And not to say that they're not both amazing, they are. We all know Penta is fucking amazing. But Ray Phoenix is gonna do the flippier, crazier shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have Pac teaming with Ray Phoenix now, who does all of it, who does the flippy, crazy, break your arm, everything. So, yeah, I think that this is a really great storyline situation we're getting into here with these guys. I hope that maybe we see Nick Jackson versus Pac next week. I know that's kind of cliche booking, but I would be all for it.
No, I love it.
I would be all for it, because that match would be the feeling and again, I don't have down expectations about this, but Nick, just when Nick is in a singles match against guys, I'm immediately like, oh shit, this could be really fucking good, because he just really goes to another level in his singles competition, I feel like.
Yeah, and sometimes cliches are cliches for a reason, because if it's a good match, fuck it, do it.
Yeah, 100%. And Pac versus Nick would be a lot of fun, so I don't see why you wouldn't, honestly.
Yeah.
And then the match I anticipate to be well, let's talk about, before we talk about the title match, let's talk about the Inner Circle. They're holding a War Council meeting. Is this the moment where MJF kicks Jericho out? Is Jericho gone? Maybe Christian takes over the Inner Circle, brother.
That would be something. I don't know. I don't think so.
Maybe MJF takes over and brings in Ethan Page, and he's like got his own little MJF now.
I don't know there's a lot of avenues you can go down. I don't have a theory necessarily, because like Sammy Guevara is gone. They just lost the tag titles. They're clearly not doing well. Like nothing's going right for the Inner Circle, really. The only times they're winning are like when they're facing each other. So it's like, damn, what do you do? What does Chris Jericho do? What does he think? Does MJF turn on him? Like you said, there's a lot of different routes we could go here. And maybe Sammy Guevara is going to come out and do something, because obviously he's not working with Impact right now. So I don't know. And I would love a Chris Jericho Sammy Guevara feud, mind you, or is Chris Jericho or MJF Sammy Guevara feud. Either one of those matchups seems great to me. So if you can introduce him back on the show somehow on this show, I would love that.
Yeah, I just don't know how you do it in this segment of the War Council, unless maybe there's not a heel turn, but they kick like Hager out, or they kick out Santana and Ortiz, which would be stupid. Like there's a lot that you can also do. I think that what everyone is expecting is probably a heel turn, or an even healer turn, I guess you might say, on Jericho, kicking him out of the group. But they tend to, when you expect a heel turn, they say, no, wait, we have more story to tell here. And I think that there is more story to tell here with Sammy G. And Jericho and MJF have been just burying Sammy G every time he's mentioned, even on Twitter. There was a situation where Enigma Beth had tweeted out about Sammy G potentially costing Jericho the title match, and Jericho retweeted her and told her, don't ever say that name again. So Jericho is on top of the don't ever say anything about Sammy G thing. And so, I don't know, man. I think that there's more story to tell there between Sammy and Jericho, that the turn isn't coming yet. That the breakup, I guess you would say, isn't coming yet. So, man.
If Sammy was on Impact right now, I would say, maybe it is. But he's not, so I feel like they had to adjust their plans.
Maybe
with Sammy.
Yeah, I think there's a slight chance that I think they would have kept their plans with Sammy the same regardless, but I don't know if their plans are for him to come back right away. There might be just a total plan for him to stay, and he tweeted and could have just been trolling the shit out of everybody, but said something about going to New Zealand in like the next month or two, or some obscure country to go wrestle. So maybe the plan isn't for him to come back relatively soon like we had anticipated. Maybe he is going to take more time off, and while there's time for Jericho and MJF to have their feud. But I don't necessarily think that. I'm just thinking there's a chance of it.
It's possible he goes on a New Japan excursion even. I don't know, man. They're opening that door, so.
It would be wicked. It would definitely be wicked. We don't have the Magic 8 Ball to ask him this week. Maybe next week. But I think that Sammy has a lot of cool stuff coming, and I think that this MJF War Council thing could potentially be the beginning of MJF or Sammy returning. Like maybe their meeting is just them continuing to bury Sammy and blame Sammy. Like, oh, we were just caught up on Sammy this whole time. Yeah. And then he like comes out with some cool thing or something. I don't know. I do think that it will be a good segment. I know that these Inner Circle segments have always been good. They've always been good ratings segments as well. And they always prove to be just really entertaining, so should be good
for sure. It'll, without a doubt, it's going to be entertaining in my opinion.
This could be a huge episode of Dynamite, though.
It could be
if it's MJF turning. We have Christian Cage debuts, Ethan Page having a debut. There's a lot of cool stuff, and then we top it off with Darby Allin defending the title against Scorpio Sky. Where, I mean, probably there's some type of turn on Dynamite tomorrow night. Some type of guy either already is a bad guy, becoming an even worse bad guy in MJF, or Scorpio kind of officially going into the role of just a douchebag. I think he either wins by nefarious ways or loses and then just destroys Darby because he's pissed that he lost.
Yeah, I think so. There's not a doubt in my mind that Scorpio is going full heel. Like, he's already clearly planted the seeds, so now it's time for the plant to grow. And for sure he's gonna turn heel in some way or another in my mind. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I really don't think I am.
Me neither. I think this is a lot more of a guaranteed turn than like the Hangman turns and stuff like that we saw coming in the past that didn't
Yeah.
come to fruition. I think
Because
this
it just makes sense.
it just makes sense. It will just help Scorpio in so many different ways. I think that him being introduced to us as he was and with SCU as a team, totally perfect, totally good. I think if he is able to turn heel and maybe even turns on them, maybe he's the reason that they end up splitting up and never being a team again or something. Like there's so many different things you could do to make him just a full-blown bad guy. That's what I want to see for him. I think that could really elevate him into another level of just like, okay, this is someone that and I might not even like him as a heel, but I might like to dislike him. Like he might be a good heel character. So
It's very possible that like this will be him hitting his stride, because I feel like, given his age and how much he's been like working for this, that he's really probably in the prime of his career right now. And this is a really good time to, one, if he wins, give him a good title run as the TNT champion, make him heel, have him cut good ass promos, and just run with them. And giving him in that feud with Darby, if he does win the title, perfect. Like that would be so good right now. And it makes total sense for Darby to lose after that crazy match where he jumped down a whatever he jumped down and nearly died as far as kayfabe goes. And so he makes complete sense to lose right now. It wouldn't be his night. He's wrestling hurt. He has to wrestle the match because the time's running up for the title, for him to have a match. So it all fits really perfectly. And you can kind of rely on AEW to make sense when they're supposed to make sense.
yeah, and like I said, I think it just kind of elevates him a little bit. I think that he's a super talented superstar, but as a babyface, he's kind of just painfully bland, somewhat average almost, because he's just kind of another character that is super good, but also like just like almost like a superhero, like just a regular superhero kind of guy who doesn't have a bunch of superpowers. He doesn't do a bunch of extra stuff, but he's just super guy.
And that's not shitting on him or anything. He's a great wrestler. He's great on the mic, but like you're right, he kind of gets lost in the shuffle as a babyface.
Yes, and I think that those same type of characters who are so good but so overlooked because they're painfully average make very great heels, because you can feed directly into that. You could talk about just being overlooked for so long and so many other different things. So I'm just a firm believer that a Scorpio Sky heel turn right now would be very solid for the company overall. I think it'd be great for Scorpio Sky. So yeah, just in those terms.
But that's the key point. Good for the company.
Well, and like I said, Tony Khan mentioned the lack of heels, the influx of baby faces. Like, and you could almost imagine him with pretty much any of those guys in the Dark Order at this point, them being established as baby faces and just having a solid. He could have a good storyline just with all of them. And they talked about how they switched them from from heel to babyface. So yeah, I think that he makes a heel turn that makes the most sense to me, and so maybe that's why we don't see anything with MJF and Jericho tomorrow. So nonetheless, I think it's a solid episode of Dynamite. Could be a great episode of Dynamite, especially if we end with a new champion in Scorpio Sky. We haven't said anything about Kenny Omega or Jon Moxley, so they're obviously not advertised for the show. They're both pretty beaten up, obviously. Yeah. So how will you reference everything that's gone on?
I expect Eddie Kingston will do something. I don't know though. Maybe
he just died, bro. What do you mean?
He didn't though.
So which is it gonna be? And that's the tough part. And you're right. And this kind of takes us back to the beginning of the episode with Eddie Kingston. Is that like he sold it, and he sold it in such a way that it wasn't. He couldn't just say, "I was just waiting. I was just waiting to see if there was more." Because when the referee pulls him off, like he's like drug off. So it's a tough break for Eddie. I'm curious to see where they go. I'm very curious to get even a pinch of an idea of who's going to be challenging for the AEW World Championship next. I have a couple of ideas in mind, but who knows? You know, like that maybe the War Council meeting is that MJF is now the focal point of the inner circle, and they're going to get him a world title shot. Like there's so many things they could do where I don't think he's going to go up against Mox again, so who's next? I don't have a huge feeling.
Agree. Like I'm sure Kenny and Mox will happen again, but not right now.
No, well, and I think there'll be We'll get maybe a small idea of who he'll face at the next pay-per-view, which is still a couple months down the line. So in between that, we'll get another one of those big show defenses, I think, as well. So, but they also don't have to do that right now with him nursing injuries from the pay-per-view. If he just comes back in a couple of weeks and starts building a program for the pay-per-view in May, that won't be an issue either, because that May pay-per-view is going to come a lot quicker than this one did.
Yes,
that's one thing
really
I'm going to
will.
say. Because
I
we
was
waited a
thinking that
while
too.
for this show, and it's probably like end of May still, but May is only 2 months away. Like
I believe it is the end of May, but you're right. It's very soon, especially for AEW, where it's usually like 3 or 4 months out every pay-per-view. Because this one got pushed back, this one's going to feel very, very quick.
Yep, and that's the nature of the scheduling. Essentially, you push one back, so that one takes longer to come, and then the next one comes so much sooner. Yeah, May 29th. That's about a month and a half, 2 months away. So that for me, like I said, as a fan, I'm freaking pumped about that. So
Fuck yeah.
very exciting, very good time to be an AEW fan. That means Dynamites will just be rolling too. There won't be too many fillers. I don't anticipate this week to be a filler at all.
No.
Christian Cage, Ethan Page, a lot of good stuff. Title match. So yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. We covered everything we needed to cover, AJ. Let them know where to find you.
One thing real quick. I want to reiterate the possibility of Eddie being there. Darby Allin fell down a hole very far, and he's wrestling. So maybe John Moxley will be there. Maybe Eddie Kingston will be there. Maybe
Eddie
Kenny Omega will be there. I don't know.
is blown to smithereens, my brother. He is not coming to the show tonight. Now you're probably right. He'll probably be there, but. And that would be a decent way to tell the story. I have no freaking clue what they're gonna do. So
I don't either.
And I do think it'll be good. That's where it'll be tough. That's where it'll be tough to do the show on Thursday though if it sucks, because they're typically like 98. They're like 90% of the time good, and then there's 10% of the time where there's something that's just like fuck, that wasn't that great. And you just don't expect it because everything's always good. And that's where the pay-per-view ending came into play. I just hope we don't follow that up on Wednesday with the same type of situation. I don't think we will, but they've got a pretty decent excuse built in. The only one who's still shit out of luck is Eddie Kingston. But
yeah. So anyways, to what you said earlier, you can follow me on Twitter at AJ the Fitzy and at Instagram at AJ the Fitzy.
Yes, sir.
You got a new change though.
Yes, sir, I did it because I wanted to at least make sure I got that, because Twitter handles are important, brother, and the 2 Sweet Elite with TOO is already taken, so I wanted to make sure I got the number. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can find me on Twitter at 2 Sweet Elite with a 2 Sweet Elite. As you know, we will be switching to the 2 Sweet Elite name for the podcast in the coming weeks, so keep an eye out for that. You can find me on Instagram at Andrew Kazir. You can find the podcast on Twitter at All Elite Podcast. Find us on Facebook at All Elite Pod. Find us on YouTube at youtube.com/AllElitePodcast. See, that's another reason why we're staying produced by the AEP. You guys probably don't understand how obnoxious it is to change the YouTube handle, but it is. So we had to bust our ass to get that, and it would be a pain to do another one. So anyways, you can find us there. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you smash that subscribe button, brother. We'll be back on Thursday, fresh off of Dynamite, the day after, to talk about our feelings on Christian Cage, Ethan Page, and everything in between. Until then, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see ya.
Bye.